On its 53rd Annual Congress, the Philippine College of Physicians commemorates 70 years of passion, constancy of purpose, and prudence in internal medicine in a series of scientific and celebratory activities on May 7 to 10, 2023 at the Philippine International Convention Center. The 4-day gathering begins with a pre-convention meeting on May 7, which opens with the convocation and award ceremonies, followed by Beyond the Box, life lessons for the internist across generations. The second day is highlighted by the 70th anniversary presidential lecture on hepatitis B and C, addressing the challenges in the Philippines by Dr. Diana Payawal. Day 3 showcases the AG Season Memorial Lectures to be conducted by esteemed international speakers. Explore 5G connectivity in antimicrobial resistance with Professor Robert Bonomo. And learn about the clinical teaching toolkit with Professor Jeff Stetson. The scientific program features plenary sessions on a broad range of highly relevant topics. And as always, you can expect the latest updates from a series of simultaneous clinical symposia covering a diversity of health matters, as well as young investigator sessions, state-of-the-art lectures, meet the exemplars, free paper sessions, PCP quiz, and industry-sponsored symposia. Don't miss the unique and exciting fellowship night, dubbed Platinum, Best of 70 Years, Best of PCP. A full evening of revisiting milestones and music through the decades. Delegates are also encouraged to engage in the insightful fireside chats. Healthcare is social, digital, ethical, and I, internist as influencer on social media. The Congress is capped by the turnover and closing ceremonies on the last day. Be a part of this once-in-a-lifetime 70-year historic celebration on the 53rd Annual Congress of the Philippine College of Physicians on May 7 to 10, 2023 at the Philippine International Convention Center. For more details, download PCP 17 mobile app today. Good day. Here is a quick guide on how to navigate the online registration portal for the 2023 Philippine College of Physicians Annual Congress. Before proceeding to register, pay your annual dues separately through your chapters. Make sure you are updated on your annual dues, as this might cause some delay in your registration for the annual Congress. Wait for 24 hours before proceeding to register if you have just paid your annual dues. Before starting your online registration, make sure you have a stable internet connection. Let us now proceed to the online registration. Step 1. Go to the website pcpannualcongress2023.com. Step 2. Scroll down to Registration section and click Register Now button. You will be redirected to the registration platform. Step 3. Choose your category accordingly and click on the corresponding button. If you belong to any of the following groups shown on screen, then click on the third button for the complimentary registrations or waived registration fee. Step 4. Fill in the form with your necessary information. You will also be asked to input your password and confirm. Make sure all information are correct. Step 5. Click Submit and proceed to payment. Step 6. Choose your payment method. Upon successful processing of payment, you will receive an email confirmation. Look for this subject in your inbox. Check also your other folders or even your spam. If you are a PCP member that already paid through GCash or Union Bank before April 1, 2023, follow Step 1 and Step 2. Then for Step 3, click the button PCP Members Paid Through GCash, Union Bank Bills Payment. Input the necessary information and password, and make sure to attach a copy of your proof of payment. Make sure all information are correct, then click Submit. If you are a PCP member that already paid through your chapter before April 1, 2023, follow Step 1 and Step 2. Then for your Step 3, click the button Paid Through Chapters. Fill in the necessary information and password. Do not forget to attach a copy of your proof of payment. Make sure all information are correct, then click Submit. You will then receive an email confirmation with this subject. Thank you, and we hope to see you in the 53rd Annual Congress of the Philippine College of Physicians. Good day! Here is a quick guide on how to navigate the online registration portal for the 2023 Philippine College of Physicians Annual Congress. Before proceeding to register, pay your annual dues separately through your chapters. Make sure you are updated on your annual dues, as this might cause some delay in your registration for the annual congress. Wait for 24 hours before proceeding to register if you have just paid your annual dues. Before starting your online registration, make sure you have a stable internet connection. Let us now proceed to the online registration. Step 1. Go to the website pcpannualcongress2023.com. Step 2. Scroll down to Registration section and click Register Now button. You will be redirected to the registration platform. Step 3. Choose your category accordingly and click on the corresponding button. If you belong to any of the following groups shown on screen, then click on the third button for the complimentary registrations or waived registration fee. Step 4. Fill in the form with your necessary information. You will also be asked to input your password and confirm. Make sure all information are correct. Step 5. Click Submit and proceed to payment. Step 6. Choose your payment method. Upon successful processing of payment, you will receive an email confirmation. Look for this subject in your inbox. Check also your other folders or even your spam. If you are a PCP member that already paid through GCash or Union Bank before April 1, 2023, follow Step 1 and Step 2. Then for Step 3, click the button PCP Members Paid Through GCash, Union Bank Bills Payment. Input the necessary information and password, and make sure to attach a copy of your proof of payment. Make sure all information are correct, then click Submit. If you are a PCP member that already paid through your chapter before April 1, 2023, follow Step 1 and Step 2. Then for your Step 3, click the button Paid Through Chapters. Fill in the necessary information and password. Do not forget to attach a copy of your proof of payment. Make sure all information are correct, then click Submit. You will then receive an email confirmation with this subject. Thank you, and we hope to see you in the 53rd Annual Congress of the Philippine College of Physicians.
Let us put ourselves in the holy presence of our Lord. Our dearest Heavenly Father, thank you for making all things possible. We are grateful for all the blessings you are pouring upon each one of us, despite the challenges we are all currently facing. Thank you for blessing us today with the wonderful opportunity to meet virtually and learn together in the awesomely exciting webinar. May your blessings of wisdom and guidance be upon us, all through the sharing and impartation of knowledge and skills by our resource speakers, facilitators, and moderators. May all of us learn together, upgrade our competencies, and capacitate us to be the help in the development of our learners' lives and communities in the spirit of your love and generosity. May we now humbly commit every part of this webinar to you as we all bring you the glory, honor, and praises for your kingdom and holy name's sake. All this we pray in the precious name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
The Philippine College of Physicians, through the Committee on Media Communication and Health Forum, presents its bi-monthly lay forum to promote the advocacies and mission of the college and its component and affiliate societies. An avenue of accurate and up-to-date conversations with the media and the general public, with timely and diverse topics covering vital public health and medical information, straight from the experts. In a platform that is convenient, accessible, and highly engaging. Welcome to the PCP Health Forum.
Welcome to this week's PCP Health Forum. So I would like to welcome all our viewers that have attended today's Health Forum. I'm pretty sure everyone is very relaxed from a very long holiday break. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty of this health forum. So I would like to welcome my fellow PCP colleagues, fellow medical practitioners, and healthcare workers, and as well as our very supportive media partners and viewers that are watching this either through the Zoom platform, our other social media platforms in YouTube and Facebook. Thank you all for joining us today. I am Doc Kat Tuhino, a member of the PCP Media Communications and the moderator for today's Health Forum. So for this week's Health Forum, we have collaborated again with the Committee on Climate Change. So the Philippine College of Physicians Committee on Media Communications has collaborated again on a very timely topic with the Committee on Climate Change, Environment, and Health. So to open our health forum and welcome us, may I now introduce Professor Diana Alcantara Payawal. She is our incumbent president of the Philippine College of Physicians. She is also a professor too of the Fatima University Medical Center, as well as the chair of the Department of Internal Medicine of the Fatima University Medical Center. It is my honor and privilege to welcome Professor Diana Payawal.
Hi, Kat. Magandang umaga sa lahat. Hi. Magandang umaga sa lahat at mga kaibigan natin sa media partners and of course, ang mga colleagues natin at mga tagapakinig. Nais kong batiin ng Happy Easter ang lahat ng naririto para sa PCP Health Forum in collaboration with the PCP Committee on Climate Change, Environment, and Health for the topic Restoring Air Quality and Health. Tayo ay mapalad dahil sa panibagong pag-asang hatid ng mapagpalang araw na ito. Kami sa PCP ay nakikiisa sa pagdiriwang sa muling pagkabuhay ng ating tagapagligtas. At bilang simula ay tayo ay inatasan upang alagaan ang ating kalikasan. Kaya kami dito upang magbigay kami ng kaalaman sa polusyon, ang unang sanhi ng nakakasama sa ating kalikasan. Air pollution is one of the biggest threats for the environment, and it affects humans, animals, crops, cities, everybody else, and even the aquatic ecosystem. Ano ang cause ng air pollution? Ano ang epekto? At higit sa lahat, ang solusyon na dapat nating alamin. Ang mga ito ay mahalagang katanungan na magbibigay tugon sa ating mga speakers for today. Our chairperson for the Committee on Climate Change and Environment and Health, Dr. Paula Teresa Santamaria, a tenured professor at the Institute of Environmental Science and Meteorology of the College of Science of the University of the Philippines, as well as the head of the Environmental Pollution Studies Laboratory in the same university. And of course, Professor Mylene Cayetano as well. Maraming salamat, Dr. Kat Tohino, at of course in the Committee of Media for this very well-known webinar. I welcome everyone to this meaningful and timely discussion. Good morning to everyone.
Thank you, Professor Prayawal, for joining us and graciously opening our for today's health forum. So before we start our session proper, may I remind everyone of the rules and etiquette for this webinar and health forum. So if ever you have any questions for this topic, you may type or write your questions regarding this topic on our Q&A chat box or in our comment section in the Facebook and YouTube platform, so that later on the Q&A portion, we may answer them. Okay? So for today's health forum, let's get into it. We have not one, but two speakers to talk to us further on how we can restore air quality and health. So this will be a joint discussion between our two speakers. So our first speaker is none other than Dr. Paula Teresa Santamaria. Actually, she has been with us in a couple of our climate change topics. So Dr. Paula is the current chair of the Philippine College of Physicians Committee on Climate Change, Environment and Health, and she is a member of the Council on the Control of Tobacco and Air Pollution, and she is also the head of the pulmonary section in the Divine Word Hospital in Tacloban. And of course, our second but certainly not the least speaker who will join Dr. Paula for this talk is Professor Mylene G. Cayetano. She is currently the Professor 2 at UP Scientist 1. She finished her PhD in Environmental Science and Engineering in Gwangju Institute of Science and Technology in South Korea, as well as she is an air and water pollution scientist. She is also the head of the Environmental Pollution Studies Laboratory in the Institute of Environmental Science and Meteorology in the College of Science of UP Diliman, and she is a member of the Task Force on Environmental Sustainability and also a member on the National Research Council of the Philippines. She is also a staunch advocate of bringing science to the most vulnerable communities in the Philippines. So without further ado, it is my honor and privilege to welcome not just one, but two speakers, resource speakers of us to talk to us about air quality and how we can restore it and our health. So let's welcome Doc Paula and Professor Mylene for this talk.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kat. Thank you so much for that beautiful introduction. And indeed, it is a great privilege for the two of us, Dr. Mylene Cayetano, and also me personally, to join you in this health forum in air quality and lung health. So today, I personally invited Dr. Cayetano to share with us her works on air quality monitoring. And I'm sure you will find it very relevant and very meaningful, especially for those who are within the Luzon region. Dr. Mylene?
Thank you, Doc Kat, for the generous introduction, and Doc Paula for inviting me again here in your organization. So I am Mylene Cayetano. I'm also a registered chemist and a tenured professor of UP Diliman, also a university scientist with more than 20 years experience in the environment sector, specifically air and water pollution, science to policy, and community interventions. Doc Paula?
Yes, to our president of the Philippine College of Physicians, Professor Diana Payawal, to the PCP officers and members of the Board of Trustees, of course, to our colleagues, dear guests, magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Let me start off today's presentation by bringing you to this mind map, and please allow me to share my screen. Okay. Sorry about this. Right, there we go. So let me bring you to this mind map and together let us discover how natural processes on Earth like volcanic eruption, the flowering and the pollen seasons, and even seemingly trivial activities of daily living like cooking and even driving a car will all add up and cause air pollution. Let us identify and define what is air pollution, the source and also the scope of air pollution, and let's see how air particle travels and what are the particulate matters of interest. And this one that causes air pollution, let's take a look on how it affects lung dynamics in particular, and how this would now affect people's health and planetary health. And also in this meeting, let's explore on how we could look on the challenges of monitoring and controlling air quality, and finally uncover opportunities that we as a medical organization and as citizens around this globe could contribute to mitigate for air pollution and ultimately climate change. So we start off with the topic on air quality principles that will be given to us by Professor Maylene Cayetano.
Thank you, Doc Paula. So to start with, clean air is a resource, just like the soil, the water. So clean air is also a resource. The reason why the state and its citizens has a stake in clean air. So through the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999, the state recognizes that a clean and healthy environment is for the good of all and should therefore be a concern of all. Several presidential decrees followed on clean air, such as the Interagency on Environmental Health, which aims to promote the well-being of every Filipino. Furthermore, there are some salient features of the Philippine Clean Air Act that recognizes the polluters pay principle and enables some economic instruments in air quality management and control. Now let's go to the definition. According to the law, air quality is defined by this. But when we call out all those of which can be easily digested by the general public and which are of utmost importance today, air pollution, next slide. Air pollution is any alteration of the physical, chemical, and biological properties of the atmosphere that will render the air resources harmful to the public health. Now, there are sources of air pollution which are natural, since air pollution is greatly affected by emissions and their sources, air pollution is categorized as natural and anthropogenic. So natural air pollution sources are those coming from volcanic eruption, those volcanic ash and dust storms, and also sea salt sprays from beachside. These are also nuances to health. But we would like to highlight this morning the man-made sources of air pollution, or we call it anthropogenic. These are man-made emissions that are also harmful to health. And this anthropogenic pollution includes the highly regulated point sources, the moderately regulated mobile sources, which are from vehicle emissions, and in some cases, smoke from burning of residues, biomass burning. There are also the non-regulated burning from grilling, cookhouses, and indiscriminate burning of solid wastes. Now, to have a grasp of the magnitude or the scale of air pollution, we need to also be aware that air pollution knows no boundaries. unlike water, unlike food intake, see air pollution, it crosses boundaries. So whether you are in an urban or rural area, if there is a source of pollution, it will pass through the boundary between urban and rural area. There are such things as background air, but there are the more nuisance of it is the polluted air. So the emissions from our neighborhood streets can be transported to pristine locations. This is regardless of the mountains and the sea that surrounds the archipelagic Philippines. So hindi ibig sabihin that we are surrounded by dagat or bodies of water, malinis na or pristine na yung hangin ng Pilipinas. It's not true. It is about density or the number of people per size of a location versus the amount of emissions that we produce. So what goes around comes around. There's also the concept of air pollution categories. And this is air pollution is categorized according to state. So we have the gaseous state air pollution that includes sulfur dioxide, nitrous oxide, carbon monoxide, and ozone. And marami ng proof that these gaseous pollutants are health hazards in the environment. And then there is the solid state pollution, which we call particulate matter or PM. So PM are the size, if we refer to our hair, no? For size comparison, one hibla of our hair is seen in the figure on the right. Now, Doc Paula is pointing on it. So compared to the diameter of this human hair, the solid particulate matter, 10 as subscript, are the sizes of the blue spheres here. So 10 is the diameter of PM10. No? So if we zoom in that blue sphere to have a closer look, we can still find some small red spheres, and these are the category PM2.5. Again, according to size, which is the diameter of these spheres. So in real world, PM10 are just the size of pollen, about the size of, the size of pollen and dusts. But then PM2.5 are about the size of red blood cells, of bacteria, of some smaller cells in which hindi na siya visible sa naked eye or even lower than it. So mas malaki yung PM10 kaysa sa PM2.5, meaning size-wise, PM2.5 can be easily transported at far more ranges. And I'd like to focus on black carbon, which is now here in the center of the slide, which are those coming from vehicle exhaust. And look that it is just about the size of virus, a single virus. So black carbon are even smaller than PM2.5. Again, the finer the particles, the more mobile it is in the environment, and the longer their mileage in the air. Doc Paula will discuss in details on the health impacts of these air pollution categories. Doc Paula?
Thank you, Dr. Malini. So from this list here, let's zero in on 6 POI, or the pollutants of interest. And she mentioned about particulate matter 10. There's also particulate matter 2.5, ozone, and also nitrogen dioxide, sulfur dioxide, and of course, carbon monoxide. So these particulate matters of interest are suspended in the atmosphere, and then they are able to gain access into the respiratory tract. And this is largely governed by the size and concentration of these particulate matters, the physiologic dimension and orientation of the airway in the respiratory tract, and finally, the host defenses. So under normal circumstances, air that is inhaled through the nose is passed on from the pharynx and it goes to the larynx. And this serves as the first stage filter for all air particles that is gaining entry into the lungs. For these particles to gain entry into the lungs, first they should have the kinetic energy and the momentum to follow the airstream curvature. So for these larger particles, at first they may have the momentum and are able to follow the normal curvature of the airstream. However, as it goes through this bidirectional flow, they lose that momentum and they now go into inertia. Therefore, they are impacted into the airway lumen. This is where they are now impacted. But the finer particles will gravitate into the smaller airways, which are lined now by the mucociliary staircase. This is where they stick onto the mucus, and then they are rhythmically swept out by the mucociliary staircase and subsequently puffed out eventually. However, the finer particles, 2.5, these are the cells that Professor Cayetano mentioned are as small as red blood cells. They are able to gain access not only to the bigger airways and the smaller airways, but through the alveolo-capillary membrane, gaining now a systemic circulation. So because of that, we have now this plenty of mechanism injury from inhalation of the particulate matters and also from these reactive gases, notably the hydrocarbons. Okay, so here. So when these are inhaled through the nose, most of this will impact into the larger airways. This is where they incite an inflammation and cause diseases like bronchitis or even allergic conditions, COPD, or an asthma exacerbation. But the smaller particles, the particulate matters 2.5 that are able to go into the systemic circulation, now incite an oxidative stress. They generate these reactive substances of oxygen and nitrate species, which in turn will cause a DNA damage. There would be an effort for repair of this DNA. However, when this is unsuccessful, it eventually turns out to become a disease or a cancer. So the cancer here is not mainly on the airways, like bronchogenic carcinoma. Remember, this is already a systemic circulation. Therefore, it could be in any portion of the body, human body. And what about the disease? Firstly, are the respiratory diseases or the chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. If we look onto the report of the Code 2023 guidelines, it made mention about the proposed taxonomy or the EQ types for COPD. And our earlier understanding is that when we talk of COPD, it is secondary to cigarette smoking foremost. But we could see here that exposure to household pollution, ambient air pollution, wildfire smoke, and occupational hazards can cause now a biomass and pollution exposure COPD, which is one of the EQ types of your COPD. In addition, in the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation also made mention that air pollution is responsible for 50% of the attributable risk for COPD in low to middle income countries, which includes the Philippines. And the global burden of 87 risk factors also made mention that it is the leading risk factor for COPD in never smokers, air pollution and indoor air pollution combined. And there seems to be no apparent safe threshold, and that could cause frequent exacerbations of COPD. We know that exposure to nitrates and also to sulfates could also cause asthma exacerbations. But another mechanism wherein we can also get an asthma exacerbation is being caught out in the rain and in a thunderstorm, which we call now the thunderstorm asthma. And it is postulated that in the atmosphere are the pollens. These pollens, wherein they are caught in the thunderstorm, they absorb moisture and then they fragment to very tiny particulate matters. Again, particulate matters 10 and even 2.5. And when this is inhaled by the asthmatic, this could trigger an asthmatic exacerbation. These same particles also, when inhaled by non-asthmatics, however, have hyperreactive airways, this could also cause coughing and also colds. So this may be the cough and the colds that they said is coming after being caught out in the rain. So this could be secondary to inhalation of particulate matters 2.5. In a report by Roth et al. In the Journal of American College of Cardiology, they made mention of air pollution and cardiovascular diseases. And for the last 2 decades, they found out that air pollution ranks 4th as the cause of modifiable risk factors for cardiovascular diseases. What happens here? It's again an interplay of oxidative stress. You have tissue inflammation and ion channel activation within the vessels, the blood vessels. Because of this will now initiate the production of biologic intermediates, causing autonomic imbalance and causing now an end organ damage, which is secondary to endothelial dysfunction or damage. You would have vascular dysfunction. We would have tissue inflammation, thrombosis, and ultimately a plaque instability. So this would cause a lot of ACS, especially in the younger individuals who are exposed to air pollution. Again, they're made mention of the nitro polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons causing now a endocrine and behaving as an endocrine disrupting chemicals. These nitro polyaromatic hydrocarbons are found in our air pollution in the air. So this behave as endocrine disrupting chemicals, and at very low doses can also cause hormonal dysfunctions. The thing with endocrine disrupting chemicals is that the effects are delayed long time after exposure to these air pollutants. And this could also be passed on from many generations up to 3 to multiple generations. So in here, we can see that here. The damage is irreversible. Once you have it, the damage is there on the DNA. And the sad part there is that we lack the adequate test methods to identify these endocrine disrupting chemicals. Therefore, this is largely overlooked as a cause of air pollution causing endocrine disrupting chemicals. And we made mention about the systemic circulation and the effects of air pollution on the systemic circulation. So clearly we could see that effects on the pulmonary tree, the hormonal imbalance on the cardiovascular systems causing strokes and acute coronary syndromes, but it also impacts on reproductive health. And among men, it causes decreased sperm quality, and among women, it can cause preeclampsia and ultimately premature birth weight. The infant could have a decreased birth weight, there could be a decreased fetal growth, and even intrauterine growth retardation. So it's really vast and systemic in its effect. In a progress update on the pollution and health by Richard Fuller, they made mention here of total pollution and smoking and secondhand smoke as the leading causes of global estimates compared to that of AIDS, tuberculosis, and malaria, drug and alcohol abuse, malnutrition, and even road injuries and interpersonal violence. So we cannot really totally discount the effect of air pollution on human health. So why do we have to come together on this forum? It is for the 7 million premature lives claimed every year because of air pollution. Over 2 million of this premature death happens in our shores over the Western Pacific region, another 2 million in the Southeast Asian region, nearly 1 million in Africa, and about 500,000 is happening in the more affluent countries like the Mediterranean and your European regions, and also 300 million in the region of the Americas. So this is another unfortunate report by World Health Organization. It made mention that the Philippines is the second biggest number of deaths due to indoor air pollution in the Asia Pacific. So not only are we exposed to the outdoor or ambient air pollution, but also on indoor air pollution. This is very much prevalent in the rural areas where in the practice of cooking using biomass fuels or chopped woods and even charcoal is very much rampant. So clearly we should do something about this problem. So when we talk of air pollution, we talk of climate change at the same time because the two are very much interrelated. This is because the greenhouse gas that drives both developmental problems are the same. The burning fuels and also the biomass fuels. So because of these fossil fuels, we already have problems on climate change and air pollution. So clearly, the way forward is to take care of air pollution, and we also take care of the problems of climate change and its effect on human and planetary health. So what else can we do? Of course, controlling and monitoring air pollution is very much in place, and this is where Professor Maylene Cayetano could give us her insights.
Thank you, Doc Paula. So UN organizations such as the WHO recognizes and advocates for clean air as well. That's why in the past decades, WHO recommends guideline values, which has been improving in the past years. So for PM 2.5, the current guideline value is 15 micrograms per cubic meter. And for PM10, it's 45 micrograms per cubic meter. So the guideline value is recommended both for long-term or 1-year average and for short-term, which is 24-hour average. And this is a recommended guideline value. The country can have a specific guideline value for managing and controlling air pollution from sources and even for the general ambient atmosphere. That's why we are fortunate that our regulatory agency, through the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, recommends and continually updates the air quality guidelines, which is shown in the next slide. So currently, our guideline value is expressed as the National Air Quality Guideline Values for criteria air pollutants, which are listed here. The criteria air pollutants are those that detects air pollution and which are measurable by our current means. And these are the solids, total suspended particulate matter, PM10, PM2.5, and the gases, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, ozone, carbon monoxide, and in some cases, chemical components such as lead. I would like to focus our attention on particulate matter 2.5 and PM10, which are continually being updated by DNR-EMB. In fact, in the next slide, we can see the transition of the PM2.5 guideline values from none before 2013 until it was recommended starting 2013 at a short-term guideline value of 75 and a long-term guideline value of 35. And then until currently in 2021, this is recent, just before the WHO updated their guideline value, our current PM 2.5 guideline value is at 35 for short term. Ibig sabihin, within 24 hours, the PM 2.5 levels should not exceed 35. And within 1 year, 98 percentile, at least the 98% of the data in the year should not exceed the value of 25 micrograms per cubic meter. These are measured in mass. And later in the future, the DNR is also envisioning to have improved measurements, such as in number concentration, and also measuring the hazardous components of air pollution, such as discussed by Doc Paula, especially those polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, which are ubiquitously present in particulate matter PM10 and PM2.5. Also, one improvement is that the DNR-EMB has a regulation of reporting the PM2.5 concentrations based on Air Quality Index, or AQI. These are color-coded breakpoints that are easily comprehensible by the general public. So usually from green to maroon, so the more lighter or the more colder colors indicate cleaner air. And kapag medyo yung color niya is warmer na, such as orange, red, purple, maroon, and then the value of PM 2.5 is already going towards hazardous. More regulatory actions are presented in succeeding slides, such as monitoring air pollution. So currently, the DNR-EMB has 51 manual sampling stations, 27 particulate matter stations, which are doing real-time measurements of particulate matter. They have 21 open path stations for measuring gases in real time as well. And then there are the conventional stations, which are for TSP, and also some other conventional mercury stations, also to determine the levels of mercury in the atmosphere. And these are for research purposes at the current state. And there are also the initiatives from the academe, such as the Manila Aerosol Characterization Experiment in 2015, wherein we published several articles in journals where we proved that air pollution from roadsides are indeed ubiquitous and a lot. And because of the finer size of air pollution from the roadside sites that we measured, which are in Manila and in Quezon City, we now have a proof that indeed these finer particles enters the lungs, such as discussed by Doc Paula earlier. And through the results of the Manila Aerosol Characterization, next slide also presents the spin-off of the researchers for clean air's advocacies and research initiatives for clean air for sustainable future, a transdisciplinary approach to mitigate the emissions of black carbon in Metro Manila, because we found out that the levels of roadside air pollution is very high, especially in urban areas. Just to give you a graphical example on the roadside levels of air pollution in Metro Manila, the next slide shows our initial study of measuring air pollution from 2015 to 2017 at 4 urban sites in Metro Manila. So we have one in Lang Center, Quezon City. We have in Ayala, Makati. We have in EDSA Muñoz, also in Quezon City, and in UST Manila. These are all roadside sites. And I'm presenting here in x-axis is the time of day, and in y-axis, PM10 and PM2.5 concentrations within the days where we measured the PM10 and PM2.5. So we can see it's diurnal, meron siyang dalawang modalities. And the modes happen during rush hour in the morning, which is between 5 a.m. or between 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. in the morning. And another mode or high level occurred during the evening rush hour and onwards. So this is a regular happening in NCR. And we are hypothesizing that this is also happening in some other metro cities nationwide. So why is this like that? So in the morning, we have the nocturnal boundary layer, or yung bubungan ng ating atmosphere ay medyo mababa because it's cold and walang sunlight. That's why nagkakaroon ng build-up of air pollution. And if there are emissions from sources such as vehicle emissions, traffic, nagbi-build up siya in producing this maximum concentration during the rush hour in the morning. And then in the afternoon, the atmosphere, the volume of the atmosphere is enlarges. So nagkakaroon ng ventilation dahil mainit at nagkakaroon ng hangin. That's why nagkakaroon ng pagbaba ng concentration during the afternoon or the noontime. That's why we are seeing the valley in the graph. And then again, paggabi na, magkakaroon again ng nocturnal boundary layer, and hindi na ganun kainit yung atmosphere. And then nandyan na naman yung sasakyan sa kalsada. So magkakaroon again ng pag-build up ng air pollution sa roadside. And we're seeing this in the next slides as a regular happening. So despite na meron tayong Laguna Lake sa east side at may Manila Bay sa west side ng National Capital Region, nagkakaroon pa rin ng build-up ng air pollution even if our meteorology is favorable towards cleaning the atmosphere. So it's about the sources of air pollution. In the next, after this, the next slide will show me holding 2 papers, circle papers. These are visual images of black carbon. So the paper that I'm holding, the white one, is before we expose the filter in an outdoor environment. And the Another filter I'm holding, which has black spot on it, is the filter that we sampled after 24 hours of being exposed in the roadside. So visibly, we can see how dark this filter paper is after being exposed outside or in the roadside only for 24 hours and at the breathing level, assumed breathing level of an ordinary human being. So around 3 to 5 liters per minute for 24 hours, ganito siya kaitim. So we can imagine if somebody stands in the urban site for several hours, that person can inhale this much amount of black carbon air pollution. And then DNR also, fortunately, is collaborating with the academe because they are recognizing that they can do further if they collaborate with us. That's why the guideline values are being updated so that we can cover also the hazardous air pollutants and some criteria pollutants that are needing updating, such as PM10. And these are just several projects that we are involved in as the academe to support the policies of DNR. Now, how is the air quality in the recent years? The regulatory data shows us that we are obtaining the guideline values for PM10 in the recent years. So bumababa naman yung ating levels of air pollution in the recent years. But this, despite the fact that particulate matter has been in steady decrease, attaining the National Ambient Air Quality Guideline value for TSP and for PM10, it still took us a total lockdown para ma-attain yung 59% decrease in air pollution. Kailangan pang magsara ng market and the people has to go indoors because of the pandemic so that we can attain a cleaner state of the atmosphere. Global rankings place the Philippines to 132nd place among 180 nations in terms of environmental performance, which includes air quality. So the quality environment is reflected by the quality of the people's health. Therefore, are we missing out on something, Doc Paula?
True. In fact, I should say that the healthcare sector is called upon to safeguard human health. Unfortunately, as an organization, the healthcare sector is the 5th largest emitter of greenhouse gases. Our climate carbon footprint is a whopping 4.4% of the global net emissions, and this is equal to 2 gigatons of carbon dioxide. So if we put in a scale, it means to say that it is equivalent to the annual greenhouse gas emission from 514 coal-fired power plants. So that is just how much carbon footprint the healthcare sector is emitting. So truly, we contribute a lot to climate change, and this causes now heat waves, stronger typhoons, rising sea levels, and higher CO2 tensions, which degrade our environment. So you could see here that it causes extreme health, severe weather, air pollution, changes in vector ecology, increasing allergens, water quality impacts, and water and food shortages. So because of this, it causes now more diseases to human. And you could see here that it impacts on respiratory diseases, on GIT, even on nutrition, food migration, forced migration, and civil conflict, health-related indices, and also injuries and fatalities. Because of this vast number of diseases that afflicts us, this will in turn need us to use more healthcare resources. More healthcare resources means more greenhouse gas emission and more carbon footprints, and the cycle is endless. So truly, we have to do something. And the first step is to first acknowledge that the global impact of pollution and climate change on health. So we have to do that. And why us? Why physicians on the front? The reason here is that we hold the ACES for a negotiation for climate change and air pollution, and this is health. We are a credible group to negotiate for climate actions, and we are a highly trusted source of information. We are trained to communicate to various health information to patients, and we interact with diverse patients and communities and we have the capacity to influence behavioral changes and policies also. So we should take up our space. If we look at the word doctor in Latin, it means docere, meaning to instruct, to teach, or to point out. So simply put, we cannot keep on treating our patients, our loved ones, and even ourselves, for we ourselves can fall victim to climate change. So this is a time when we use our white clouds and bring people to awareness, to motivate them to action and also to activism for the common good. So these are the windows of opportunities that we health professionals can engage on. We should increase the number and efficacy of people and institutions advocating to policymakers for healthy and equitable climate health actions. We have started doing this. We should engage in climate smart healthcare operations. The Healthcare Without Harm have a lot of projects on this. We should improve the quality of climate discourse by focusing on climate health and equity. So this is the work that we have collaborated with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and also the UP Academe, and also the PCP and the PCCP. This is Professor Maylene Cayetano here during that meeting in February 2023. And at the background are us, members of the PCP and the Philippine College of Chest Physicians. So we need to clean up our act. And this is the Republic Act 8749, or the Philippine Clean Air Act of 1999. While it says that the state shall promote and protect the global environment to attain sustainable development, while recognizing the primary responsibility of local government units to deal with environmental problems, it is also incumbent on us citizens who have the right to breathe clean air and the right to utilize and enjoy all natural resources to also participate in the formulation, the planning, the implementation, and the monitoring of environmental policies and programs, and in the decision-making process on projects or activities that may have adverse impact on environment and public health. So truly, we have to be there on governmental policies. We also have to boost up our activities and align all our health activities with the Sustainable Developmental Goals of the United Nations. And here, this is reported by Michael Hadley and his group on climate cardiology. These are opportunities to mitigate for climate change. And these are the 6 interventions that he would like us to follow. First is transition from high red meat to plant-based diets. When we do this, we use less meat, meaning say we reduce also the greenhouse gases coming from the production of this livestock. And when we use less of this high red meat, we also lessen the cardiovascular risk because there is less saturated fat intake. Second, we have to expand the green spaces in regional residential environments. If we look onto the report of Professor Maylene Cayetano, you would notice that on the roadside along Lung Center Group, they had the lowest green carbon footprint or particulate matter indices. And it tells us that maybe there is something special within the lung center of the Philippines area, which is in Quezon City. And if you remember, there is a park across it and a heavy foliage, a heavy canopies that would serve now as a carbon sink, removing the atmospheric carbon dioxide. And so while we also want to plant trees as part of our advocacy in our climate change, we also increase the physical activity because we allow more spaces for exercise. We have to transition from vehicular to active transportation. By doing this, we reduce the greenhouse gases from the use of fossil burning, and also we allow ourselves to exercise more. Next, we have to transition to clean, renewable energy, and also advocate for clean stoves for cooking and heating. By doing this, we reduce deforestation because less of our rural health folks will be chopping down trees and use it for cooking. And then we do this also, we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. And when we resort to renewable electricity and cleaner stoves for cooking, we reduce also air pollution and therefore reduce cardiovascular disease risk. And finally, we have to be also keen on doing resource efficiency in healthcare. especially on biomedical waste. Okay, so when we reduce our biomedical waste, we reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and therefore expand for preventive medicine. So these are some just of the things that we could do for starters, and I'm sure there are more to come in the coming years. And we should be mindful of our carbon footprint. Among anesthetics, anesthesiologists, we should also be careful with the anesthetics that we use because there are anesthetic gases that is not good also for the environment. And among pulmonologists, probably we should also be looking onto the inhalers that we are using and advocate one that has a good carbon index. And finally, as internists of the Philippine College of Physicians, we are called upon to be responsive to the changing environment. And we can do this by firstly rebranding ourselves to become doctors of Earth first and subsequently doctor of her people.
In the academic sector, we recognize that we are part of the problem because we are also emitters of pollution by bringing our cars to work and all. Just like what Doc Paula said, we have to clean up our act. That's why the battle cry of Rescue Air or Researchers for Clean Air is malinis na hangin dahil sa akin. And in our small contribution, we would like to be part of the solution by promoting our studies on science to policy. And then there's the call to, we are being called to be stewards of nature by Pope Francis. He said that neglecting to monitor the harm done to the nature and neglecting the environmental impact of our decisions is only the most striking sign of disregard for the message contained in the structures of nature itself. So with that, Doc Paula and I would like to thank everybody for listening to this lecture. Doc Paula?
Yes, and remember the only way forward is to restore Earth first. So it is only when we put a premium on the health of Mother Earth alongside with that of our people can we say that we are true to our Hippocratic oath to first do no harm. Thank you so much for your kind attention. We would like to, of course, personally, I'd like to thank Dr. Professor Maylene Cayetano. Thank you so much for sharing your works with us. It's always a learning experience from you when I join you in your sessions. And I would also like to thank the Philippine College of Physicians and the Committee on Climate Change, Environment, and Health for the support. And of course, the PCCP Council on the Control of Tobacco and Air Pollution.
Thank you. Likewise po. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, back to you, Professor Kat. Dr. Kat.
Hi, hello po. Thank you, Dr. Paula Santamaria and Professor Maylene Cayetano for your very comprehensive and informative discussion on air pollution and not just its effect on our environment, but its environmental risk to our health. Kasi we have seen that it's not just pulmonary complications we see through the effects of air pollution, but as well as cardiovascular, endocrine, and other systemic effects. So before we go on to the Q&A portion, I would like to welcome anyone who has questions to type in the Q&A chat box as well as the chat webinar box so that we can answer them right now. So I think we already have few questions. Actually, medyo marami na pala. So let's start with one from an anonymous person po. How much does vaping cause burden to our air quality? Is it the same as what cigarette smoking would do? The same burden po ba daw siya? I think Doc Paula, would you like to start po? If you would like to.
So clearly, cigarette smoking has already been identified as a health hazard and also on the environment. And cigarette and vaping is also on the same category. So it doesn't mean that because you're vaping, it's recreational smoking, it is less of a hazard to the environment. In fact, it also has the same effect. And we have reports on vaping-associated lung injury, especially on the younger individuals. So this is something that we should really make it a point that we put a no to it and we really stop it. So we have to come together because, as you can see, this has been passed on by Senate already, and it has been, it's already being sold even to the younger teenagers. So we cannot have that. So the effect is just the same, the greenhouse gas emission coming from vaping, because it also has a carbon footprint. By the time the vape is produced, it has to go through a process of manufacturing, and also it can cause a climate change problem. So we say a no to vaping alongside with cigarette smoking.
Thank you, Doc Paula. Professor Mylene, will you have any comments or okay na po yung sinabi ni
Yes,
Doc Paula?
I agree
Yes.
with Doc Paula on the health hazards of vaping, and regarding its chemical components, vaping, of course, it is vaporizing a liquid that contains some organic substances, and that's the process of vaping, vaporizing at lower temperature. And this produces volatile organic compounds. VOCs are harmful to health. So it oxidizes some parts of the cells, kaya sa chemical components pa lang niya, no na talaga.
So it's not just the vapor po, Doc. I'm a professor, no? It's also the chemical components that cause harm to the environment as well as to our health.
Yes.
So yes, thank you po. So we have another question from the Q&A chat box from from Maria Rowena Valerio. Good morning to everyone. According to DENR, there is now benchmarking of heavy metals in our air. Kindly comment. Sige,
Yes,
Professor Mylene, kayo po. Yes, go
That's
ahead.
correct. That's correct. There's a benchmarking of the trace elements, not just the heavy metals, because, for example, arsenic is not a heavy metal, but it's a trace element. So yes, you're correct, ma'am, that there is already an ongoing benchmarking of trace elements in the atmosphere by the DNR, and it's from the filters that they collected. So they are sending the filters to our research institutes, IASM, so that we can analyze it for trace elements in not just lead, but also cadmium, arsenic, mercury. Mercury is already being done through the Mercury network, Asia Pacific network on mercury. And then aside from that, yung mga other trace elements such as antimony, chromium, copper, manganese. Yes, this is an ongoing study, and we're looking forward to consolidating the results in the next years. Hopefully in this before the end of this year, makonsolidate na namin.
So we have a study to watch out for po,
Yes.
Professor Mylene, on heavy metals naman in our air. Now, Dr. Chito Permejo says, great lectures, sabi niya po dito sa comments. And then we also would like to welcome Ma'am Bel Surara from Radyo Aguila of Net25. She has, Ma'am Bel, welcome po. And she has a few questions po. Okay, this is from Facebook. She's watching it from our Facebook live platform. So this is her question. Sa inyong point of view, ano po ang dapat na gawin ng gobyerno para mabigyan solusyon ang problema sa air pollution sa kabila ng maraming programa na ginagawa halimbawa ng NGO? Thank you. And then we have one more question later. Ito muna. So ano po yung pwedeng gawin ng gobyerno daw to help in solving yung air pollution problem?
So if I may first comment,
Yes, ma'am.
First
Yes,
and primarily, the government through the DNR EMB is mandated to manage the air pollution problems in the Philippines. So basically, may ginagawa na sila. And I think hindi lang ito na-highlight or hindi lang newsworthy because it's part of their mandate, in fact. But in the recent years, the DNR is publishing white papers through the National Air Quality Status Report, so that nandun listed na yung mga ginagawa ng government to solve air pollution problem. The first thing that the government needs to do is to measure, know the numbers. Kasi if walang numbers, hindi nila alam kung paano i-manage. And they are doing the monitoring since the 2001 implementing rules and regulations of the Philippine Clean Air Act. And the numbers will then support the government in what control measures that they would like to proceed into. And second thing, it's not just the DNR who is tasked para sa cleaning the air. It's a multi-sectoral approach dapat, because emission sources are from vehicles. And who is regulating vehicles? It's the DOTR. And then energy sources, yung mga power plants and all, these are Department of Energy. So it's a multi-government approach dapat, and I think yun yung dapat gawin. Tahi-tahiin pa yung mga initiatives and hindi siya hiwa-hiwalay. And in my opinion, that's the next thing to do. Maganda na magtahi-tahi yung mga initiatives ng government para we can sail on the same boat in solving the air pollution problem.
Doc Paula, do you have any comments on that as well?
Yes, maybe I could add to that also. If you will notice in the initial report that Professor Mylene pointed out, we were hitting a 65 on particulate matters 10 and 2.5. And then during the 2021, it was brought down to 37. So what are the lessons that we could get from these numbers? So probably I would think that the 37 is not because we have improved on our vehicles or also in greenhouse gas emissions, but because the lockdown forced us to stay home and there were less cars on the street, therefore less air pollution. So we cannot afford another lockdown like what Professor Mylene said earlier, but what we could do is work with the transportation business and make sure that we have cleaner cars, cleaner fuels that are being used in our transport system. And again, mass transit system is a must. It's amazing how Japan could do it and the other European countries could do it. And I'm sure we have started with our metro railways. We could just make it more efficient, so more and more people will be incentivized to use this mass transit system. So I think yung po yung lessons na makikita natin that we can do it. If we look at the number again, from 37, in the last meeting, Professor Mylene, I think we agreed on a 20. That is still a high number compared to the 5 micrometers that the World Health Organization would like us to adhere. But that is a big change from where we are now. So it's a big challenge for the DENR to effect this, a reduction in the air quality to 20. That's a big task. And like what Professor Mylene said, this is something that cannot be done by one task force alone. This should be a multi-sectoral, and this is where the healthcare system can come again and tell us that these numbers are safe for human health. So like I said, we hold the ACES health, and we can mitigate for climate change and air pollution.
So Doc Paula and Professor Mylene, so we have to provide, yun nga, the government has to provide data, resource data, and as well as, yun nga, tie up our initiatives. Ang follow-up question ni Ma'am Bel Serrara is, how can we tie up these? Paano daw itatahi-tahi po yung mga initiatives? How could we do that po? How can we tie it up siguro po?
If I may start off first, with the Philippine College of Physicians, we would expect that we already have a structural framework, and high up on the structural framework is the Philippine College of Physicians and its mission to be responsive to the changing environment. Doing the managerial job is us, the Philippine College of Physicians Committee on Climate Change, Environment and Health, that has an inclusive vision to together we lead for people and planetary health. And down here are the Philippine College of Physicians chapters and also the affiliate societies. So it should be a activity that should be, concerted effort. This shouldn't be fragmented. All of this effort should be concerted so that when we stitch up our organization with other organizations, they all fall into place. So that's how I could see it.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Doc Paula. So, from Ma'am Bel, again, I think she's going to disseminate it in her Radyo Agila program, can we enumerate yung top 5 diseases na may epekto ang air pollution? I think, Doc Paula, can we just review it ulit? I think you already discussed it, pero so that we can review it and she can disseminate, Ma'am Bel can disseminate it po. Yes po.
So like I mentioned earlier, the top 5 diseases that is caused by air pollution on health is number 1 are the respiratory diseases. High up would be yung chronic obstructive pulmonary diseases and recurrent exacerbations, and also an asthma exacerbation. Then second up on the list would be its effect on the cardiovascular diseases. There's a lot of cardiovascular diseases like atherosclerosis and even heart attacks. That is also secondary to air pollution. Third would also be its effect as a nitrogen. It's also an endocrine disrupting chemicals that causes diabetes and other hormonal dysfunctions in the human body. It causes cancers, and it also impacts on reproductive health. If you could see, it also affects men. They would have a problem with their sperms. So there is a sperm dysfunction, and among women, there's a lower birth rate, and among those who are already pregnant, there is a problem with eclampsia and giving birth to children or to babies who are small or who would have fetal malformation. So again, those are the top 5 that I could cite.
Okay. So respiratory, especially yung COPD and asthma,
Cancers,
cardiovascular, cancers, endocrine such as diabetes, and of course reproductive, for our reproductive system
Health.
as well. Yeah.
Yes,
And health.
reproductive health.
Okay. So we have siguro, I'll just answer siguro 2 or 3 questions na lang po. Because we're going to, I know Professor Mylene has another po lecture or meeting. But from Dr. Emiel Villanueva, are there publicly available data sets on outdoor air pollution or particulate matter per area that researchers could use to investigate associations with health conditions? Okay, so data sets on outdoor air pollution that researchers could use to investigate associations with health conditions. I think, Doc Paula, you've already said some studies, pero I think baka yung studies local studies ba, meron po ba tayo?
I will have to defer to Dr. Mylene because those are first-hand accounts. Those are her studies really on air quality and health.
Aside from our first-hand accounts sa UP Diliman, the DNR also has their readily available data downloadable through their AQMS website, their Power BI. You just need to visit emb.gov.ph central office, and then they have the air quality monitoring system. Posted there are the data. Aside from that, there are also NGO initiatives such as the Rotary Club of Makati. You can visit www.airtoday.ph, and you can see the visualization of air pollution in several sites of Metro Manila mentioned a while ago: Ayala, UST, UP Diliman included, Lung Center of the Philippines. Some of the instruments or the machines are still in the works, like ongoing maintenance, but in this year we're planning to put them all up and running so that the public can benefit.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Mylene. So, last 2 questions ha. So, from Ma'am Bel Surara again. So, sa mga pag-aaral po ba, may bagong technology po ba na maaaring gamitin para kahit paano ay mabigyan solusyon ang air pollution po sa Pinas? Like collaborating po daw sa DOST, since may programa po sila about balik scientists and mga researchers from National Research Council of the Philippines. Professor Mylene, I think you can answer po? Or...
Yes, meron definitely. The air quality research roadmap is a baby roadmap by the DOST. Recently lang, just 2012. Also, when I returned as a balik scientist, we crafted the air quality research roadmap para sa DOST. And since this is a new roadmap by the DOST, medyo konti pa yung budget and konti pa lang yung nagpa-participate. But yes, included yung mga technologies to control air pollution. I just can think of some. For example, there's a Zeoskin, wherein they are developing membranes to capture gaseous air pollutants. from sources. So I hope meron ding mag-develop ng mga filters to capture pollution from vehicles. And also there is they call it I forgot, carbon one, something like that. They put it in jeepneys, and then to capture the smoke from the tambucho nung jeepney. So there are R&D initiatives, yes, in which we can also partner with them. The medical sector can also partner with the UST para dun sa mga R&D initiatives on air pollution control.
Okay. Thanks, Professor Maylene. I'm pretty sure this could be disseminated through Mambel. So last question, I think for Doc Paula to. From Dr. Baldemar po, to date, how many trees have already been planted and survived by PCP members? How many more trees do we need to have a better air?
Yes. Actually, we've been monitoring the number of trees that we have since we started the green event, and we average a total of at least 20,000 trees per year. But last year we had a decline in the number of trees planted. So the problem here is because number one, the DNR have a mandate that we shouldn't be planting on the rainy months during the cold seasons also, because that means less and less trees would also be able to thrive. So that is for the Baguio region. And then on other regions, again, we would have problems with the tree planting because of the storms. So a lot of storms, and again, the seedlings are washed off. So we'd have to monitor the number of trees that we have. But if we look at the sites wherein we have initially planted, like the mangrove sites in Iloilo, in Tacloban City, they are very much thriving. And also on the biodiversity project that we have, protection project, we could see also that we have planted more than 160,000 trees already. So as to how many percent have grown, we have yet to determine that, because these are trees that may we cannot have a total count, kasi hindi naman natin nililabel na planted by PCP ang bawat tree na to, no? But we would like to correct this, and we were thinking that the Philippine Regulations Committee already came up that for you to be able to renew your license, our PRC license, we should have also planted trees. So as an organization, the PCP could come up with a PCP park, and on that PCP park, that will represent all the PCP affiliate societies and also the PCP chapters. So with that park, at least sure tayo na naalagaan po yon, and we can also see just how much trees are living there. So we could partner with Million Foundation, Trees Foundation, because they could oversee the planting also and making sure that these plants thrive for the next 3 years. And then we can just visit the site time and often. Okay, so those are the things that we could do. There's a lot of things to do. Our mantra is to teach, to plant, and to protect. We have to do more tree planting, and we would really like that it comes to a point that these trees are visible, that these are thriving and growing on areas that are designated by PCP members. So, madami pa pong work po, sir, but we are doing it.
Okay. Thank you, Doc Paula, for that. So, again, I think we're a little bit over time na. So, with that, and behalf of the PCP, I would like to thank Dr. Paula Santa Maria and Professor Maylene Cayetano for your very comprehensive and very informative discussion on air pollution, air quality, and how we can restore it and its effects on our environment. I would like to thank you for your time, effort, and expertise regarding this very timely matter again. So, yan, si Professor Maylene has to go. Thank you. Thank you. Pero before we leave this health forum, of course, may we now welcome our last but certainly not least speaker to give us our closing message for this health forum. He is Dr. Danilo Baldemar, our current or incumbent regent for PCP Northern Luzon region. Good morning, Dr. Baldemar. Hello po.
Thank you, Dr. Thank you, Dr. Toy. On behalf of the Philippine College of Physicians with our President, Dr. Diana Payawal, and the Board of Regents and the Champion Regent for Media Community, Dr. Nina Berba, we would like to thank our speakers, Dr. Paula Santamaria and Professor Mylene Cayetano for this very enlightening lecture. So kaya nabanggit ko din kanina yung sa pagtatanim ng puno kasi we would like to encourage our PCP members to do their thing. Kailangan tayo rin kasama sa pagtatanim ng mga puno kahit in our backyard or in our small space. Magtanim po tayo kahit ano pong halaman. We would like also to thank our moderator for this morning, Dr. Ana, for his wonderful moderation sa ating mga speakers. And also, we would like to thank our media partners, the members of the PCP, our dear listeners and patients, and also our PCP staff for this health forum this morning. So let's all strive hard to have a clean air for a sustainable future. And reminder po ulit, please continue wearing your face mask, not for the COVID, but also for a lang. And with that, thank you very much for your listening. Back to you, Dr. Toyna.
Thank you, Dr. Valdemar, for your closing remarks. So, yon ang special message ni Dr. Danilo is siguro as our part as physicians, we can plant a tree or plant a small plant para we can help in changing our environment and help restore the environment, okay, health. So thank you all for attending. But before we go, I think I'd like to say that a lot of people had said that it has been a very well informative and good presentation and discussion with regards to restoring air quality and our health. So before we go, we have our announcements. Okay, so let's share the screen with our announcements. So first, we have. Okay, wait lang ha. Can we enlarge that, Sir Nilbert? Okay, so for April 15, we have our another program sa PCP sa Radios Veritas. The title for that is Talakayan Dementia at Iba Pa. This will be, our speaker for that day will be Dr. Steven Villaraza. This will be on April 15 along with our anchor, Dr. Agnes Cruz and Father Joel Sabala. This will be on April 15 po, 9 to 10 a.m. sa PCP Radio Veritas. Tapos for we have our 53rd PCP Annual Congress Press Con. Okay, so Sir Nilbert, can you put it up? So our speakers for the press con would be Dr. Solante, Dr. Bernardo, Dr. De Guia, and Dr. I'm sorry, it's very okay. Dr. Rosario. So Dr. Ronjin Solante, Dr. Rosario, Dr. Eloisa De Guia, and Dr. Bernardo. Okay, so our moderator for that day would be Dr. Ginger Samonte. This will be on April 16. Tama ba, Sir Nilbert? Okay. And then followed by the next will be another program on April 22 that will be sa PCP sa Radios Veritas. And on April 22, we'll have the topic, Sakitin Ka Ba? Sali na sa Usapang Immunodeficiency. This will be held on April 22, Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m. Our guest speaker would be Dr. Michelle Joy de Vera, and our anchors would be Dr. Samonte and Father Joel Sabala. So again, thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you, Ma'am Bel Serrara from Radyo Aguila for joining us, and all our media platform, media avid viewers and our media people who are watching from our social platforms, from YouTube, from Zoom, and from Facebook. I would also like to again thank Professor Payawal, Dr. Santa Maria, Professor Maylene Cayetano, and of course, Dr. Baldamor for joining us and giving us their expertise on this matter. And of course, I would like to thank the PCP Committee on Climate Change, Environment, and Health for joining us in enlightening us more on this very timely topic, so that we can restore air quality and help to restore our health and the health of our environment. For that, thank you again, and I hope to see you on our next upcoming events. Keep safe, everyone, and ingat.
The Philippine College of Physicians, through the Committee on Media Communication and Health Forum, wishes to thank its media partners, social media followers, and participants. See you again next time, here on the PCP Health Forum. On its 53rd Annual Congress, the Philippine College of Physicians commemorates 70 years of passion, constancy of purpose, and prudence in internal medicine in a series of scientific and celebratory activities on May 7 to 10, 2023 at the Philippine International Convention Center. The 4-day gathering begins with a pre-convention meeting on May 7, which opens with the convocation and award ceremonies, followed by Beyond the Box, life lessons for the internist across generations. The second day is highlighted by the 70th Anniversary Presidential Lecture on Hepatitis B and C, addressing the challenges in the Philippines by Dr. Diana Payawal. Day 3 showcases the AG Season Memorial Lectures to be conducted by esteemed international speakers. Explore 5G connectivity in antimicrobial resistance with Professor Robert Bonomo. And learn about the clinical teaching toolkit with Professor Jeff Stetson. The scientific program features plenary sessions on a broad range of highly relevant topics. And as always, you can expect the latest updates from a series of simultaneous clinical symposia covering a diversity of health matters, as well as young investigator sessions, state-of-the-art lectures, meet the exemplars, free paper sessions, PCP quiz, and industry-sponsored symposia. Don't miss the unique and exciting fellowship night, dubbed Platinum, Best of 70 Years, Best of PCP. A full evening of revisiting milestones and music through the decades. Delegates are also encouraged to engage in the insightful fireside chats. Healthcare is social, digital, ethical, and I, internist as influencer on social media. The Congress is capped by the turnover and closing ceremonies on the last day. Be a part of this once-in-a-lifetime 70-year historic celebration on the 53rd Annual Congress of the Philippine College of Physicians on May 7 to 10, 2023 at the Philippine International Convention Center. For more details, download PCP 17 mobile app today. Good day. Here is a quick guide on how to navigate the online registration portal for the 2023 Philippine College of Physicians Annual Congress. Before proceeding to register, pay your annual dues separately through your chapters. Make sure you are updated on your annual dues, as this might cause some delay in your registration for the annual Congress. Wait for 24 hours before proceeding to register if you have just paid your annual dues. Before starting your online registration, make sure you have a stable internet connection. Let us now proceed to the online registration. Step 1. Go to the website pcpannualcongress2023.com. Step 2. Scroll down to registration section and click Register Now button. You will be redirected to the registration platform. Step 3. Choose your category accordingly and click on the corresponding button. If you belong to any of the following groups shown on screen, then click on the third button for the complimentary registrations or waived registration fee. Step 4. Fill in the form with your necessary information. You will also be asked to input your password and confirm. Make sure all information are correct. Step 5. Click Submit and proceed to payment. Step 6. Choose your payment method. Upon successful processing of payment, you will receive an email confirmation. Look for this subject in your inbox. Check also your other folders or even your spam. If you are a PCP member that already paid through GCash or Union Bank before April 1, 2023, follow Step 1 and Step 2. Then for Step 3, click the button PCP members paid through GCash, Union Bank bills payment. Input the necessary information and password, and make sure to attach a copy of your proof of payment. Make sure all information are correct, then click Submit. If you are a PCP member that already paid through your chapter before April 1, 2023, follow Step 1 and Step 2. Then for your Step 3, click the button Paid Through Chapters. Fill in the necessary information and password. Do not forget to attach a copy of your proof of payment. Make sure all information are correct, then click Submit. You will then receive an email confirmation with this subject. Thank you, and we hope to see you in the 53rd Annual Congress of the Philippine College of Physicians.